Daewon had been walking through the dark caves for 3 weeks. His team was trying to map every tunnel and room beneath the surface of their new planet. The colony needed water. They needed minerals. They needed anything that could help 5,000 humans survive on this strange world far from Earth. His headlamp cut through the darkness as he squeezed through a narrow gap in the rock. His scanner had shown something unusual on the other side. Something different. When he finally pushed through into the open space beyond, he stopped moving completely. The cave was huge. So huge that his light could not reach the ceiling above. But that was not what made him freeze in place. In the middle of the floor sat a pool of liquid that glowed with soft blue-white light. The light pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Daewon touched his communication device. "Hanul, can you see this?" he whispered. But there was only static. He was too deep underground for the signal to reach the surface. He moved closer to the pool slowly. His scanner gave him readings that made no sense. The liquid looked like water, but it was also something else. Something his equipment could not identify. The temperature reading showed exactly 36.7 degrees. That was the same as human body temperature. The pool was about 10 meters wide. It was perfectly round. It looked like someone had carved it into the cave floor on purpose. Around the edge, Daewon saw marks in the stone. They were symbols. Very old symbols. They had been worn down by time, but they were definitely made by intelligent hands. His hand shook as he turned on his helmet camera. "This is Kim Daewon. Day 23 of the expedition. I have found something impossible. There is a pool here with glowing liquid. The structure looks at least 50,000 years old. But we were told this planet had no intelligent life. There should be nothing like this here." He knelt down beside the pool. The light danced under the surface. It was beautiful. He could not look away. Daewon reached out with one gloved finger to touch the water. A sharp crack echoed through the cave. He jerked his hand back, but the sound came from his glove. The material was falling apart. Crumbling like it had aged hundreds of years in seconds. His whole suit began to fail. The seals broke. The fabric turned to dust. Everything that protected him from the cave air simply fell away in pieces. Daewon scrambled backward. But then he realized something strange. He was not dying. He could breathe. The air was good, but that was impossible. All their scans showed the caves had poison gas. Carbon dioxide, methane. Humans could not breathe down here, yet he was breathing just fine. The pool pulsed brighter. It seemed to respond to him being there. He should leave. He should climb back through that narrow gap and return to camp. He should tell Director Tae-kyung about this impossible thing and let people with more experience make decisions. But Daewon was a scientist. This was the most important discovery humans had ever made. He moved closer to the pool again, this time without his suit to protect him. He could feel warmth coming from the liquid. Not burning heat. Just warmth. The kind that made sore muscles feel better and worried thoughts calm down. The symbols around the edge seemed to move when he was not looking directly at them. Daewon cupped his hand. He reached toward the water. It felt like silk against his skin. It felt like comfort, like home. He brought his hand to his mouth. The taste was impossible to describe. It was water, yes, but water that held the memory of every ocean, every raindrop, every morning dew. It was every drink he had ever needed in one sip. Power flooded through his body. Not electricity. Not energy from a battery. Something older. Something more basic. His vision suddenly expanded. He could see not just the cave, but the entire tunnel system. Then the whole planet. Then the star system. The universe opened up before him in a rush of awareness that should have destroyed his mind, but instead felt like waking up for the first time in his life. He fell to his knees. He gasped for air. The visions faded slowly. The pool's light was dimmer now, almost gone. Then Daewon heard something, a voice. It did not speak Korean or English or any human language, but he understood every word perfectly. It came from behind him. It came from everywhere. It came from the stone itself. "Finally," the voice said. It sounded like wind blowing through ancient places. "Now the stars will know your name." Daewon spun around fast. The cave was empty. There was no one there. When he looked back at the pool, it was just water now. Dark and still. No glow, no pulse. But he could feel that something had changed. Not just in the cave. In him, his hands were not shaking anymore. His breathing was calm and steady. When he looked at his palms, they seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Like he had swallowed starlight. Daewon stood up slowly. His body felt different, stronger, more aware. He could sense things he could not sense before. The movement of air currents. The vibration of his own heartbeat. The energy that seemed to flow through everything around him. He needed to get back to the surface. He needed to tell someone what had happened. But as he turned to leave, he took one last look at the pool. The water was completely still now. But Daewon knew he would never be the same. Whatever he had drunk, whatever that voice had been, it had changed him forever. He began the long climb back to the surface. The journey should have taken 6 hours. But somehow he found handholds in the dark that he should not have been able to see. He moved faster than he ever had before. His body seemed to know exactly where to go. 3 hours later, he emerged into the pale dawn light of the alien world. The colony settlement spread across the plateau ahead. Prefabricated domes and machines hummed with life. 5,000 humans trying to build a new home among the stars. Daewon walked toward the research dome. His suit was gone. His equipment was destroyed, but he felt more alive than ever. He had drunk from an ancient pool in a cave deep below the ground. A voice from nowhere had told him the stars would know his name. He did not understand what it meant yet, but he could feel the power moving through his veins. He could sense that this was only the beginning. Something vast and ancient had been waiting in that cave. Waiting for someone to find it. Waiting for someone brave enough or foolish enough to drink. And now that someone had, now everything would change. Daewon reached the colony settlement as the sun rose higher in the purple-orange sky. His body moved differently now, faster, more efficient. The walk that should have exhausted him felt easy. He was not even breathing hard. He passed the perimeter sensors without triggering any alarms. That should have been impossible, but somehow he knew exactly where to step to avoid them. Inside the research dome, he found Hae-jin leaning over a microscope. She worked late nights just like he did. When she heard him enter, she spoke without looking up. "You look like you saw a ghost." Then she raised her eyes and saw him standing there in the shredded remains of his expedition gear. Her expression changed instantly. "Daewon, what happened to your suit?" "I need to see Director Tae-kyung." "Right now." Hae-jin stood up quickly. She had never heard him speak like this before. So serious, so certain. "It is 4 a.m. I know. This cannot wait." Something in his voice made her move immediately. They walked together through the quiet colony to the command dome. Director Tae-kyung was there reviewing supply lists. She rarely slept more than 4 hours a night. Her gray hair was tied back. Her sharp eyes missed nothing. Kim Daewon, Dr. Park Hae-jin. "This had better be important." "I found something in the caves," Daewon said. "Something that changes everything." For the next hour, he told them about the pool, about the glowing liquid, about drinking from it and hearing the voice. He showed them the recordings from his helmet camera, right up to the moment when his suit failed and the electronics died. Tae-kyung listened without interrupting. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair and studied him carefully. "You drank from an unknown alien liquid?" "Yes." "That could have killed you. That could have infected you with something we cannot detect or fight." "I know." "And you say you heard a voice telling you that the stars will know your name." "I am not making this up. It happened." Tae-kyung stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the alien sunrise. "Dr. Park, I want every medical test we have done on Daewon. Blood work, brain scans, everything. If he has been compromised, we need to know before it spreads." "Director," Daewon said quietly, "I am not sick. I feel better than I ever have, but I can prove I am different now." He held out his hand and focused. He remembered the feeling from the pool, the surge of power. His palm began to glow with that same blue-white light. Hae-jin gasped. Tae-kyung turned slowly from the window. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes were wide. "Interesting," the director said. "Dr. Park, that medical examination is now your top priority. And Daewon, until we understand what happened to you, you stay in the research dome. No exceptions." The tests took 3 days. Hae-jin worked without stopping, running every diagnostic their limited equipment could perform. She drew blood. She scanned his brain. She measured everything about him. The results were impossible. His blood was still human, but it contained traces of elements that should not exist. Elements that were not supposed to be stable. They were arranged in patterns that looked almost like computer code. His brain activity had increased by 40%. His reflexes were 3 times faster than normal. His strength had doubled, but his muscles had not grown. His body temperature changed in complex patterns that made no sense. "You are still human," Heijin told him on the 3rd day. She pulled off her gloves in frustration. "But you are also something else now. Something extra. It is like someone wrote a program into your cells." "A program to do what?" "I do not know. But day 1 it is spreading." She showed him the analysis. The changes to his body were not stopping. They were actively rewriting him, making him stronger, faster, more durable. If the pattern continued, in a month he would be far beyond normal human capability. In a year he might not be recognizable as human at all. "We should put you in stasis," Heijin said quietly, "until Earth can send experts. This is beyond what we can handle here." An alarm cut her off, a loud wailing sound that meant only one thing. A ship was approaching. They ran to the command dome. Taekyung stood staring at the display screen with an expression Daewon had never seen on her face before. She looked afraid. "It is not human," she said. "Nothing in our database matches it. The ship is approximately 2 kilometers long. Our sensors can barely detect what it is made from. It is in orbit directly above us right now." Daewon felt something inside him respond to her words, a feeling like recognition, like meeting an old friend. He walked to the communications console. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, even though he had never been trained on this system. "Day-1, what are you doing?" "They are here because of me," he said. "The voice told me the stars would know my name." "They do." He activated the general frequency. Static filled the room, then a voice spoke, clear and strong, in that same language that was all languages and no language at all. "Kim Day-1, you have been chosen. We are the architects. We have waited 53,000 years for one of your kind to find the pool. To drink, to be worthy." Taekyung found her voice. "Worthy of what?" "Not you," the voice said gently. "Only he can truly hear us. Only he drank the ancient waters." Daewon felt understanding flow into his mind, information that had not been there before. "They are not hostile. They have been watching humanity since we left Earth, waiting to see if we could survive the journey, establish ourselves on a new world, explore instead of just surviving. The pool was a test we did not know we were taking," Taekyung said sharply. "The test is always unknown," the voice replied. "Otherwise it proves nothing. Day 1 has passed. He carries within him now the gift and the burden. The ability to shape reality as we once did. The responsibility to use it wisely." "Shape reality?" Heijin whispered. Daewon looked at his hands. Understanding flooded through him. The changes in his body were not random. They were preparation. The pool had given him access to something the architects called the fundamental field, the underlying structure of space and time itself. With training, he could manipulate matter and energy in ways that would seem impossible, but there was a cost. He could feel it in the way the architects spoke, in the sadness beneath their words. "What happened to you?" he asked them. "Why did you leave the pool behind?" "We ascended," they said. "We left physical form behind. But we learned too late that unlimited power leads to emptiness. We became like gods, and gods grow bored. They grow distant. They grow cold. We are the last of billions. We maintain this watch only because we hope you will do better than we did." The massive ship hung in orbit above them, silent, waiting. "Will you teach me?" Daewon asked. "We will guide you, but the learning must be yours. The choices must be yours. That is the point. Humanity must find its own path to the stars, not follow ours." The connection faded. The ship remained above them, a silver reminder that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Taekyung turned to Daewon. He saw the weight of command in her eyes. "This is your choice. Whatever you have become, you are still one of us, still human. What do you want to do?" Daewon thought about the pool, about the voice, about the power growing inside him with every hour that passed. He thought about Earth, about billions of humans who did not know their species had just been invited to join something vast and ancient. "I want to learn," he said. "I want to understand what they are offering. And then I want to come back and show humanity that we do not have to be afraid of the dark anymore." He smiled. The light beneath his skin pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. "The stars know my name now. It is time they knew humanity's name too." The architects did not take Daewon away to their ship. Instead, they brought the training to him. The massive vessel stayed in orbit, but something came down from it. Not a machine, not a spacecraft, just a presence. It appeared in an empty storage dome that Director Taekyung had quickly cleared out. It looked like a sphere of liquid light that pulsed with the same rhythm as the ancient pool. "I will be your teacher," it said. Its voice filled the dome. "You may call me whatever you wish. We gave up our names when we gave up our bodies." Daewon stood before it. He knew that Taekyung, Haijin, and many other colonists were watching through the observation window. The director had wanted to restrict who could see, but Daewon insisted. Whatever he was becoming, he would do it where his people could watch. "No secrets. No hidden changes. What am I learning?" Daewon asked. "You are learning to manipulate the fundamental forces through conscious will. Some species do this with technology. They build machines. Others, like us, like you now, carry the ability in our biology." "Magic," Haijin whispered from beyond the glass. "If you prefer that word," the architect said, "though it follows rules as strict as any physics. You simply do not know those rules yet." The training began. First, Daewon learned to see differently. Not with his eyes, but with the new sense the pool had given him. When he closed his eyes and focused, the world became patterns of energy. He could see the heat from people's bodies. He could see electricity flowing through wires. He could see the tiny quantum fluctuations that formed the foundation of everything. "All things are energy," the architect taught. "Matter is just energy in a very stable form. Learn to see the patterns, then you can learn to change them." Days became weeks. Daewon practiced 16 hours every day. He learned to control smaller and smaller amounts of energy. At first, he could only make light. His hands would glow brighter or dimmer based on his will. Then he learned to create heat. He could focus thermal energy until he could melt steel just by touching it. The colonists watched in shifts. Some were afraid. Some were amazed. Some were envious. Yunseo, the chief engineer, watched with fierce concentration, as if trying to understand how it worked through observation alone. Bora, who managed the farms, looked at him with something like worship. That made Daewon uncomfortable. Only one person treated him exactly the same as before. Jiwon, the colony's medic, had been Daewon's closest friend since they left Earth together. Jiwon would sit with him during rest periods. He brought food and just talked about normal things, the colony's small dramas, the debate about what to name the planet, the betting pool about whether the hydroponics tomatoes would actually grow. "You are very calm about all this," Daewon said one evening while eating the rice and protein Jiwon had brought. Jiwon shrugged. "You are still you. Your terrible jokes are the same. You still forget to eat unless someone reminds you. You still squint at everything like you need glasses even though we fixed your eyes before leaving Earth." He paused. "You are just you with special abilities now. I figure that is not so different from me being me with medical training. We are all just people learning skills. I am not sure this counts as a skill. Why not? You practice. You improve. You master techniques. Sounds like a skill to me." It was the most grounded perspective anyone had given Daewon. It helped more than Jiwon probably knew. After 6 weeks, the architect taught him materialization. "Energy becomes matter," it explained. "You have learned to move energy. Now learn to stabilize it, to give it form." Daewon held out his hands. He focused on pulling energy from the air, from heat, from light. He compressed it, shaped it, forced it into a pattern his mind held like a blueprint. An apple appeared in his palm, perfectly red, perfectly formed. Haijin tested it later. "It is real," she said. She sounded shaken. "Not synthetic. You did not build it from molecules. You just made it exist. Where did the mass come from?" Yunseo demanded, staring at the data. "From the field itself," Daewon tried to explain. He did not fully understand it either. It is not creating something from nothing. It is more like reaching into another dimension where matter exists as potential and pulling it into our reality. That is insane. That is what I am doing." The training grew more intense. Daewon learned to affect things from a distance, to lift objects without touching them, to see around corners by sensing the energy patterns of what lay beyond. He learned to speed up his perception, making time seem to slow down around him. But the architect warned this was dangerous. Push too hard and he could trap himself in subjective eternity, while only seconds passed in reality. 3 months after drinking from the pool, Daewon could walk through solid walls. He did it by shifting his matter temporarily out of phase with normal reality. He could heal injuries by speeding up cell regeneration. He could communicate telepathically with anyone willing to open their mind to him. You learn quickly, the architect said, faster than any species we have taught before. Humanity has flexibility in thinking, creativity in solving problems. This makes you exceptional students. How long did it take your people to learn this? Thousands of years. But we had to discover it ourselves. We had no teacher. And we were afraid. Afraid of what we were becoming. Afraid to experiment. You have no such fear. That was not entirely true. Day one was terrified, but he was also excited. On the night of his 100th day of training, Director Tae-kyung called all 5,000 colonists together. They crowded into the main commons area. The space felt too small for what was about to be discussed. Tae-kyung stood on the makeshift stage. Her back was straight. Her expression was serious. We need to make a decision about what happens next, she gestured to Daewon. He stepped forward from the shadows at the side of the stage. 5,000 pairs of eyes focused on him. In 3 months, Daewon has become something we have no word for. The architects call it an ascendant, someone who has been given access to the fundamental forces of reality. He can do things that look impossible because we do not understand the science yet. Magic, someone called from the crowd. Call it what you like, Tae-kyung said. The question is this: what do we do with this knowledge? Worried murmurs spread through the crowd. The pool still exists. It is dormant now. But the architects say it could be activated again. They are willing to offer the same opportunity to others, if we want it. If we can find more people worthy of drinking from it. The murmurs became shouts, some excited, some afraid. All urgent. Yunseo stood up. How do we know who is worthy? What made Daewon worthy? I do not know, Daewon said honestly. The architects will not tell me. They say the pool judges for itself. Based on standards they do not fully understand anymore. It is ancient even to them. What if someone drinks and is not worthy? Bora asked. What happens then? Unknown. The architect's voice suddenly echoed through the commons. Everyone jumped. The presence had followed Daewon from the training dome. In our history, the unworthy simply found water. Do transformation, no harm. But your biology is different from ours. We cannot guarantee safety. The room went silent. Ji-won stood up. I think we are asking the wrong questions. This is not about whether we should make more ascendants. It is about whether we should tell Earth what we found. Because if we do, this colony will be flooded with people who want power, and I am not sure that is good. That started a fierce debate that lasted 3 hours. Some said Earth deserved to know. Others said it was too dangerous. Humanity was not ready. A few suggested they should all drink from the pool. Become a colony of powerful beings. Make themselves superior to normal humans. Those last suggestions made Daewon feel sick. Finally, Tae-kyung called for silence. We will vote, but not tonight. Everyone needs time to think, to consider what this means. In 1 week we meet again and decide. The crowd dispersed slowly. Daewon stood alone on the stage. He stared out at the alien stars through the viewport. Ji-won found him there an hour later. You okay? Ji-won asked. I have become something like a god, Daewon said quietly, and I have no idea what I am supposed to do with that. The architects seemed to think that was the point, that you would have to figure it out yourself. What if I figure it out wrong? Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think the fact that you are asking that question is exactly why the pool chose you. Daewon looked at his friend. This man who treated the impossible with calm acceptance. He felt grateful he was not alone in this. Whatever the colony decides, Ji-won said. You know I support you, right? I know. Good, now come on. Even beings with special powers need to eat. As they walked together, Daewon felt the architect's warm approval in his mind. He was learning not just how to use power. He was learning how to stay human despite it, and that, he realized, was the real lesson. The week of thinking became a month, then 2 months. The colony split into groups. Some wanted to keep the pool secret. Some insisted Earth should know. Some wanted to make more ascendants. Some wanted to destroy the pool completely. They were afraid of what humanity might become. Daewon continued his training, but the joy was gone. He could feel their fear every time he walked through the colony. Their hope. Their greed. People who used to greet him now avoided him. Others came to him with requests. Heal my sick child. Fix this broken machine. Perform miracles. He helped when he could. The child with the failing immune system was cured. Her cells were gently guided back to proper function. The atmospheric processor that had been breaking down for weeks was repaired at the molecular level. A farmer whose crops were dying found his soil suddenly rich with nutrients that Daewon had created from worthless rock. But each miracle made things worse. Each use of power reminded everyone how far beyond them he had become. On the 57th day, violence came. Daewon was in the research dome working with Hai Jin. They were trying to understand the changes still happening in his body. The alarm suddenly screamed to life. Not the normal alert, the emergency tone that meant threat from inside the colony. They ran to the commons and found chaos. A group of colonists led by Sung-min had taken control of the command dome. Sung-min worked security. He and his people were holding Director Tae-kyung and 3 other staff members hostage. "We cannot let Earth know about this." Sung-min's voice came over the general communication system. "They will send the military. They will turn what Daewon became into a weapon. They will create an army of ascendants and use them to conquer instead of explore. We have to destroy the evidence. Destroy the pool," and he stopped talking for a moment. Daewon felt his stomach twist. "And we have to eliminate the security risk," Sung-min finished. "They meant him. They wanted to kill him." "I will not let them," Hae-jin said. Her hand gripped Daewon's arm. Around them, other colonists spoke agreement. They had tools. Improvised weapons. Ready to fight. "No," Daewon said firmly. "No violence. I will handle this." He walked toward the command dome alone. Hundreds of colonists followed at a distance. Watching. The architect's voice whispered in his mind, "This is the moment. How you respond will define not just your future, but your species' future." The command dome's airlock was sealed, but Daewon could sense the energy signatures inside. Sung-min and 7 others, all terrified, all holding weapons they hoped would work against an ascendant. He placed his palm against the door. He reached out with his mind, gently, carefully. The electronic lock opened without any sign of force. Inside, Sung-min spun to face him. He held a plasma cutter in shaking hands. Behind him, Tae-kyung and the others were tied to chairs. "Do not come closer," Sung-min warned. "I know you could kill us all with a thought, but I also know you will not. You are too good, too moral. That is the problem. You still think like a human, but you are not human anymore." "I am human," Daewon said calmly. "Having power does not change that. It changes everything. You could end wars, cure diseases, change planets with your mind, but you will not. You are afraid of what that power means. Earth will not be afraid. They will use people like you as weapons." "You are right," Daewon said. Sung-min looked surprised. "I am afraid. I am terrified of what I could become. But that fear is what keeps me human. And I think you are afraid too. Not of me, of yourself, of what you would do if you had this power." Sung-min's grip tightened on the plasma cutter. "I would do what is necessary." That is what everyone with power says right before they become a monster. Daewon took 1 step forward. The plasma cutter hummed to life. Its blade glowed white-hot. "I could take that from you," Daewon said quietly. "I could disarm all of you. Free the director. End this without anyone getting hurt. It would be easy. Then why do you not? Because I want you to choose. I want you to see that having power means nothing if you cannot choose not to use it." He stood there, completely vulnerable, watching Sung-min struggle with the decision. The seconds felt like hours. Finally, the plasma cutter powered down. "I do not want to hurt anyone," Sung-min said. His voice broke. "I am just so afraid of what is coming, of what we are inviting by letting this continue." "I know," Daewon said. "I am afraid too." He reached out and gently took the plasma cutter from Sung-min's hands. The man did not resist. Around them, the other conspirators lowered their weapons. Daewon moved to free Tae-kyung. He used his power to dissolve the ropes without touching them. The director stood up. She rubbed her wrists and looked at him with an expression he could not read. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Do not thank me yet. We still need to make a decision." That night, Tae-kyung called another assembly. This time there was no debate, no shouting, just exhausted silence as they waited to hear what would happen. "We have been tearing ourselves apart," Tae-kyung began, "fighting over a decision that is not ours to make. Because there is one person whose voice matters most. The person who drank from the pool. The person who has to live with the consequences." She looked at Daewon. "It is your choice. Tell us what happens next." 5,000 pairs of eyes turned to him. Day One stood and walked to the center of the commons. His mind raced through possibilities. Keep it secret, but secrets always came out. Tell Earth, but that would bring people who should not have this power. Destroy the pool, but that felt like giving in to fear. There was one other option, one the architect had mentioned but Day One had thought was too extreme. The architects told me something, he said. His voice carried across the silent space. They said humanity has flexibility in thinking they admire. A creativity they lost when they became too powerful. They think we have a chance to do what they could not. To become greater without losing what makes us human. He paused. I propose this. We tell Earth everything. We invite scientists, philosophers, and leaders to study the pool. But before anyone else drinks, we establish rules. A system. Not about who is worthy. I do not think we can judge that. But about who is willing to be accountable. What does that mean? Yunseo asked. It means anyone who wants to become an ascendant must agree to use their power in service. Not to any government, but to humanity as a whole. You want this power? Then you use it to solve problems bigger than yourself. You help, you heal, you build, and if you abuse it, there are consequences. What consequences could stop an ascendant? Someone called out. Day One smiled slightly. Other ascendants. We police ourselves. We hold each other accountable. If someone becomes corrupted, we stop them before they cause harm. You are proposing a society within society, Heijin said slowly. A group with powers beyond normal humans but bound by their own rules. I am proposing we stop being afraid and start being responsible. The power exists. The pool exists. We cannot unmake that, but we can shape how it is used. Taekyung studied him. And if Earth disagrees? If they want to control it? Then they will find the pool is gone, people gasped. You can move it? Jiwon asked. The architects can. They agreed to relocate it if we ask. Hide it where Earth cannot find it. Until humanity is ready to use it properly. It gives us time to develop the code. The training, the accountability system. When we are ready, when we have proven we can handle this responsibly, then we reveal it. The silence stretched long. Finally, Sungmin stood up. I will vote for that. I still think this is dangerous, but at least you are not pretending it is not. Others began to stand, one by one, until the entire colony was on its feet. Then we are agreed, Taekyung said. We send a message to Earth in 3 months. That gives us time to move the pool and establish our first rules. Until then we prepare, the assembly ended. But the energy had changed. Instead of fear and suspicion, there was purpose. As Daewon walked back to his quarters, Jiwon caught up with him. You know you just volunteered to be responsible for every ascendant humanity ever makes, right? I know. That is a heavy burden. Better than letting power run wild. Jiwon laughed. Only you could drink magic alien water and turn it into more responsibility. He stopped walking, suddenly serious. When you start recruiting people to drink from the pool, I want to volunteer. Daewon turned to face his friend, surprised. Why? Because I trust you to build this right, and I think you will need people who knew you before you became powerful, to remind you who you were. Looking at Jiwon's face, Daewon felt weight lift from his shoulders. Thank you, he said quietly. Do not thank me yet. I might fail the pool's test and just end up wet. They laughed together under alien stars. Two friends facing an impossible future. The stars knew Daewon's name. Now it was time to show them what that name meant. 2 years passed. A message from Earth arrived at the colony exactly when they expected it. Radio waves traveling at light speed from a civilization just beginning to understand what had been discovered. Daewon stood in the command dome and watched the holographic display decode the transmission. Director Taekyung stood beside him. She looked older now, but somehow stronger than when they first landed. Around them, 20 other figures waited in silence. 20 ascendants. The pool had been moved to a moon orbiting a gas giant 2 star systems away, hidden in caves even deeper than the ones on this planet. The architects had done their work well. Even Earth's most advanced scanners could not detect it. But candidates had been brought there in small groups. Carefully chosen people. Not by any single rule, but by looking at their whole lives, their history of helping others, their mental strength, their ability to stay grounded when offered power. Jiwon had been the second person to drink after Daewon. The pool accepted him. He awakened with the same gifts, the same connection to the fundamental field. Now he served as the ascendant's medic and conscience, the one who asked, should we? Before anyone thought, can we? Heijin had gone third. She emerged with a special talent for biological work. She could heal injuries and cure diseases at the cellular level. She had spent the last year traveling between Earth's colonies, quietly curing the incurable, saving the dying. Yunseo had surprised everyone by volunteering. The engineer had been skeptical of the pool's mystery, but she was drawn by what it could do. Her specialty became changing matter and building structures. She could reshape materials with a thought, building things in hours that would normally take years. The others had come slowly, carefully vetted. Bora, who had looked at Daewon with worship, had been rejected. Her psychological tests suggested she saw power as an escape from her own problems rather than a responsibility. She was hurt but eventually understood. Instead, people like Hyunwoo had been chosen, a former soldier who spent his career protecting civilians from disasters. Soo-jin, a teacher who dedicated her life to helping poor children learn. Jae-hwan, a farmer who understood the patience needed to grow things properly. Each drank from the pool. Each was transformed. Each took the oath Daewon had written in those first months. I am trusted with power beyond measure. I will use it to serve humanity. I will respect others' freedom. I will not force my will but offer my help. I will accept correction from my fellow ascendants. I will hold them to the same standard. Power does not make me superior. It makes me responsible. Simple words, but they mattered. The holographic display finished decoding. A woman's face appeared, middle-aged, wearing the uniform of Earth's Unified Space Command, Admiral Park Echa. They had sent a Korean commander to deliver the message. Thinking it would help, Director Kim Tae-kyung, Ascendant Kim Dae-won, she used his formal title, the one Earth had given him. Earth has received your reports about the pool of ascension and the enhanced individuals. We are concerned, that was putting it mildly. The political chaos that followed the revelation had nearly caused war. Religious movements calling ascendants angels or demons, scientists demanding access to study them, military forces insisting the power be controlled by governments. It took 2 years of careful negotiation to reach any kind of peace. Ascendants had to prove their commitment to service rather than domination. However, Admiral Park continued, Earth's Council has agreed to accept your framework with one change. We want oversight, a joint council of normal humans and ascendants to govern the selection process and approve major uses of abilities. Daewon looked at Tae-kyung. They had expected this. It is reasonable, the director said. We cannot expect complete trust. Trust must be earned. Then we agree, Daewon said. The council formed within months. 6 normal humans, 6 ascendants, meeting regularly to discuss how power should be used and who should be given it. It was not perfect. There were arguments, philosophical disagreements, moments when normal humans felt excluded and ascendants felt constrained. But it worked. Slowly, carefully, it worked. Hyunwoo used his abilities to terraform Mars, accelerating the atmospheric work by decades. What should have taken centuries took him 5 years of dedicated effort. When he finished, he collapsed from exhaustion. Even ascendants had limits, but he woke to find the first natural rain on Mars in billions of years. Soo-jin changed education by developing a way to help students overcome learning disabilities. Not controlling their minds, never that, but gently fixing the biological barriers that made learning hard. Children who struggled for years suddenly thrived. Jae-hwan returned to Earth and began healing damaged ecosystems. He could not do everything. The scale was too vast even for an ascendant. But he could start the work, restore key species, clean contaminated soil. Others, normal humans with technology and determination, did the rest. And Daewon led them, not as a ruler but as a guide, the first among equals who held others accountable and accepted accountability himself. 5 years after drinking from the pool, Daewon received a message from the architects. They wanted to meet, face to face, or as close as beings without bodies could manage. He traveled alone to the hidden moon, to the new caves where the pool waited. The liquid glowed softly, ready for the next worthy person. Above it, the architects appeared as dancing light. You have done well, they said. Better than we expected. Better than we did ourselves. We have barely started, Daewon replied. There are only 50 ascendants now. And already some struggle with the temptation to impose their will, to decide they know better than normal humans. But they have not given in, because you hold them to the oath, because you built a culture of restraint alongside power. It is fragile. It could break. All civilizations are fragile. The question is whether they are worth preserving. Daewon looked at the pool, remembering that first drink, the surge of awareness. Why did you really leave the pool? You said you ascended, but there is more to it. The architects were silent for a long moment. We became so powerful that nothing challenged us, they finally said. No problems we could not solve. No mysteries we could not answer. Without challenge, without struggle, we lost purpose. We stopped growing. We became static, eternal, perfect, and empty. So you left this for others to find. A trap, a test, and a hope. We wanted to see if another species could take the power we discovered and use it better. Keep it balanced with struggle, with limitation, with the humility of knowing there are still things beyond your reach. And if we fail, if we become like you, then another species will find the pool after you fade. They will have their chance. But Daewon, we do not think you will fail. Your species has something we lost. You remember what it is like to be helpless. You cherish it, even fear it. But you remember? That memory will keep you human even as you become something more. Daewon felt the weight of those words. There are others out there, other species who found pools, who became ascendants, yes. Some failed as we fear you might. Some succeeded in ways we never imagined. The galaxy is full of experiments. You are not alone. Will we meet them? Eventually. When you are ready. When they are ready. The stars are patient, the presents faded. Daewon knelt beside the pool alone. He looked at his reflection in the glowing water. He looked older now, not physically. The pool had stopped his aging, but wiser. Tired in a way that had nothing to do with his body. I do not know if I am strong enough for this, he whispered. The pool did not answer. It never did. But he felt its ancient power. And he knew strength was not the point. The point was choosing every day to use power responsibly, to stay human even when you could be like a god, to serve instead of rule. Daewon stood and left the cave, returning to his ship, to the colony, to work that would never be finished. 10 years after he drank from the ancient pool, Daewon stood on humanity's first interstellar station. He looked out at the stars. There were 100 ascendants now, spread across a dozen colonies, working beside billions of normal humans to build a civilization that spanned star systems. They had made mistakes. 2 ascendants had broken their oaths and had to be stopped by the others. But the system held. Jiwon joined him at the window, 2 old friends looking at infinity. Do you remember what the voice said? Jiwon asked. In the cave? Now the stars will know your name, Daewon quoted softly. Do you think they do? Really? Daewon thought about the architects, about other species they mentioned, about the vast cosmic community humanity was slowly joining. He thought about the station beneath his feet, built by human and ascendant hands together. He thought about children growing up on Mars and other worlds, learning that power was responsibility, not privilege. I think they are starting to, he said. Not just my name. All of humanity's. We are becoming something the galaxy must notice, something it cannot ignore. Is that good? I do not know. But it is necessary. We cannot hide forever. If we are going to step into the light, better to do it with open eyes and strong principles. They stood in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the architects watched. Somewhere out there, other species stirred, becoming aware of the young race that found an ancient pool and was not destroyed by it. Somewhere out there, the future waited,